Good evening, everybody. My name is Thilini, and I'll be talking about my PhD research project, which is repurposing basalt for carbon dioxide capture and healthy food production. So today I'll be talking as an overall about my whole PhD project. So here I conducted 4 experiments. So first experiment was an incubation experiment. Second one was a glass house. Third one was also a glass house experiment. And the fourth one was a field trial. So in my first experiment, which is the incubation experiment, I characterized basalt, and I also analyzed the effects of basalt addition on soil carbon dioxide evolution and soil physiochemical properties. And in my first glasshouse experiment, I analyzed the effects of basalt and urea addition on wheat yield, soil physiochemical properties, and pore water chemistry. And in my second glasshouse experiment, I analyzed the effects of basalt particle size on soil physiochemical properties, plant performance, and soil organic carbon fractions. And I also conducted this with and without plants as well. And finally, I conducted a field trial to analyze the field scale effects of basalt application on wheat yield and also soil physiochemical properties. In addition to that, I also analyzed the mineralogical changes in basalt after the field application, before the field application as well. So as I explained before, in my experimental framework, I characterized 3 different Australian basalts from 3 different states. And after thoroughly characterizing them, I chose one type of basalt for my experiments. And the first experiment was a carbon dioxide incubation experiment. Following that, I conducted 2 glasshouse experiments. And after finishing these experiments, I conducted, finally, my field trial. So as the first step, I collected 3 different basalt types from South Australia, Victoria, and also New South Wales. And based on the mineralogical and chemical properties, I conducted the basalt type from Victoria, which is also called as Moree basalt. And my first experiment was an incubation experiment. Here I measured the carbon dioxide emission from soil after adding basalt to the soil. So here I conducted this experiment in a closed container, which is like a shot bottle. So I added basalt into the soil along with malic acid. So why I added malic acid was to mimic the natural environment of soil in an agricultural setting. So low molecular weight organic acids such as malic acid, fulvic acid, humic acids are present in soil either by plant root exudates or soil microorganisms. So these low molecular weight organic acids also affect soil respiration. So in order to mimic that, I added malic acid for some of my treatments. So after I finished my experiment, I observed that the highest cumulative respiration was observed in the treatments where I only added malic acid, and the lowest cumulative respiration was observed in the samples where I added only basalt. Interestingly, I found that when I added basalt together with malic acid, it actually reduced the cumulative carbon dioxide emission compared to the malic acid only treatment. So it indicates that when I added basalt, it suppressed carbon dioxide evolution to some extent. So in my first glasshouse experiment, I added 3 different types of urea rates along with 6 different basalt application rates, including the control. So here I use 3 urea rates, which are 50, 100, and 150 kilograms per hectare urea. And the basalt application rates were from 0 to 100, including the control. So what I observed was the soil, because of the time limitation, I'll be discussing about few results only from each experiment. So the soil pH increased significantly compared to the control when basalt was added at all the rates. However, when the urea application was increased, there was a slight decrease in pH at all the basalt rates, and I think it might have been because of the proton release, which is done by urea as a fertilizer. And in addition to this, when I calculated the wheat yield or the seed yield following the experiment, I found that when basalt was added, the wheat yield increased, and in this pot experiment, it was significantly increased at 50 and 100 tons per hectare, which were the highest rates of application. So in my second glasshouse experiment, I conducted this experiment with different particle sizes of basalt, including the control. So the first size I used was less than 4 millimeter, which was the quarry, the particles I got from the quarry. So this is like the fine fraction which I obtained from the quarry, and it's like a byproduct and it's very cheap. So they practically don't have a particular use for them in the quarry. And then I sieved it to different particle sizes, which are between 2 to 4, 1 to 2 millimeter, and the finest fraction, which is less than 1 millimeter. Then I conducted these experiments with and without the wheat to see the wheat rhizospheric effect. So in the results, I observed that when it comes to soil pH, the finest basalt fraction, or the less than 1 millimeter fraction, produced the highest pH increase compared to the control. However, when basalt was added, the pH increased. And when I compared the planted and unplanted treatment, I found that there was no significant differences between those in pH. And when I looked at the wheat yield as well, it showed a similar response, where the lowest fine particle size fraction showed the highest wheat yield increase, which was around 12.5%. So finally, for the in-field validation, we conducted a field trial where we did 3 types of basalt application rates, including the control, 0, 20 tons per hectare, and 40 tons per hectare. And we did 2 different rates of urea application, which is 50 nitrogen, 50 kilograms per hectare urea, and 100 kilograms per hectare. So it was done in a randomized complete block design, so in a full factorial design, giving 6 treatments. And each treatment was replicated 4 times. Here you can see some of the photos that we took while doing this trial, and all the basalt was spreaded manually. So it was a bit of a task. So when we looked at the field trial results, I observed that basalt significantly increased pH at 50 kilograms per hectare, 50 kilograms of nitrogen per hectare. And especially in addition to this, I collected pore water as well at 2 instances, which is 95 days after seeding and also 181 days after seeding. So we installed rhizome samplers into the soil around 20 to 30 centimeters deep, and we collected this and we analyzed for pore water. So what I observed was at the highest application rate, which is like 40 tons per hectare application, I found that the pore water alkalinity increased significantly. And when it comes to the seed yield, there was an increase in seed yield. However, it was not significant compared to the control. Like when it comes to the glasshouse experiments, they gave like more pronounced results. The increases were significant, but when it comes to the field trial, it was not statistically higher compared to the control. But however, I found that the maximum increase in seed yield was around 4.23% higher than the control, in which I observed in the 40 tons per hectare basalt application. So finally, as a conclusion, when we talk about the soil responses, from my incubation experiment, I found that the soil carbon dioxide emission decreased with basalt, which indicated some enhanced soil organic carbon stabilization. And also when I talk about all my experiments, basalt increased soil pH significantly across all experiments with stronger effects at higher rates and also finer particle sizes. And when it comes to soil pH, urea diminished the effect of basalt. And when we talk about the plant responses, the seed yield increased significantly with basalt in both the greenhouse experiments, with the largest gains at higher rates and finer particle sizes of basalt, and also yield increased with higher urea rate applications. And when it comes to the field trial showed a maximum wheat yield increase of 4.23% at 40 tons per hectare, even though this increase was not statistically significant. And overall, I found that basalt improved soil fertility, crop performance, while also lowering carbon dioxide emissions, supporting its use for carbon capture through enhanced rock weathering, also while delivering some agricultural co-benefits. Finally, I would like to thank my supervisors, Binoy, my co-supervisor, Enzo, Justin, my external supervisor, Amanda, and also all the technical staff at Adelaide University who helped me a lot, including Susie and Patrick, and also farmer Derek Tiller, who helped us to collaborate this project. Thank you.